I'm as passionate about being a musician and playing and writing music now as I was 40 years ago. And I think that's a really important reason to carry on. If I've known many brilliant musicians, much better than I am, who just lose interest and don't play anymore. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. But underneath, whether you've got a great talent or not, it's having the passion and keep doing it, which is what matters. And as long as you get enjoyment out of it and see a purpose in doing it, that's the whole point. You just keep doing it. So, there are typically we see musicians and ones that we take a notice of as in their 20s and often without other responsibilities and often with lots of time and ambition to better move forward and do something with their music, and they're the ones that we look to the future with. You get to your 40s, maybe late 30s, and the kids have come along and the mortgage and you haven't made a career out of it, and I can understand it sort of takes a back burner. Then you get into your 50s and 60s, and of course you're just old now. No one's interested in old musicians. And a lot of older musicians at my age, our age, Julie and I, you're going to play in wine bars, do covers, knock out the same standards and so on. Or if you're in a successful band, you just keep touring the songs that you've always played. And nothing wrong with that, but where older as a band is different is that we've never had a career. We've never been successful in music. We don't have records that you'll know or remember from 30 years ago. We don't tour. We don't play live. We're a studio band, but we're in sort of still have this same passion and enthusiasm that we would have had in our 20s. There's still that ambition and drive with it, not to get famous, not to make loads of money. It's not going to happen. We're not daft. We're wise enough to know that. But it's the passion to create the music and the art and to enjoy the process and hopefully create something that has some value to one or two listeners somewhere in the world. And certainly we know people do listen to the music, enjoy it. The hard thing to do when you're older, no matter how passionate you are and how much energy the music may have, is to break through. You'll never find a new audience when you're older. You won't. I rarely find a new band coming into my ears, my space, that I become a fan of and certainly wouldn't go and see. Occasionally it comes along. But the relationship with music and bands and the whole scene and everything and what defines our generation, that is something that goes on in your 20s. And to me, some degree into my 30s too. When Britpop was coming along and a big thing, the whole British music scene back then, I was in my 30s and I loved it. So that also has helped define my relationship with what I like now. But yeah, being an original artist in your late 50s in our case, that's just a very, very dead-end street. No hope space in terms of commercial success. No one is going to take any interest. But that's okay, as long as you're doing it for yourself, for your own art. And it's totally okay. I've seen plenty of discussions online where some pretty unpleasant people will say, you're doing it for the art, you're rubbish. If you don't do it for the money, you're just rubbish. That's absolute crap. I mean, it's crap. You can do art for art's sake, and it can still have commercial aspects to it, accessible. Art can be accessible. It doesn't have to be self pandering to your own. I don't know what the word is. It doesn't have to be just self-absorbed music. It's a funny thing, writers can be extremely recognised and start a career in their 50s. Authors. There's all sorts of careers you can do in your 50s where you're still seen as you could be fresh and win a major prize and become something. But music, if you haven't made your name in your 20s, possibly into your early 30s, you're not going to make your name. It's just not going to happen. And that's okay. You've got to kind of accept that, and I accept it quite happily. But don't let it stop you having that passion for creativity and hopefully at times originality. And that really is what's behind Older, the band. We call ourselves Older because we're older. And it's not the world's best name. It's got a lot of good reasons why it was a terrible name for a band. But at the end of the day, the number one thing people say to us is, you're too old to do this. You're too old. You're wasting your time. You're too old. It's embarrassing. Find something. Go play golf on the weekend. I think we've talked about this in the past. It's like, fine. But if we call ourselves Older, at least we're acknowledging we're older. I wanted to call the band Old, but there was another band, I think an American band called Old, which I thought was a better name. But really want to steal someone else's name if they're darn sight more established than you'll ever be. So we settled with Older, and I'm happy with the name. It just defines who we are. I mean, it doesn't define our music or our sound, but at least it sort of bats that into the long grass when someone comes along and says that. It's like we're not hiding, we're not mutton dressed up as lamb, we're not pretending to be younger. We're just being honest. We're being who we are. And interesting, in the last few years, we did struggle with something that a lot of middle-aged people struggle with, which is weight gain. And we were more conscious of being larger than we were normally meant to be in our lives. And so in the last couple of years, we've both lost about 30 kilos and brought ourselves back to a space where our bodies have aged and we're old. We're really old, and we've got wrinkles and stuff, and backache and all that stuff, which young people get to. But at least we're a size that is very similar to what we were when we were in the prime of our young adult lives, and so we're more comfortable with that too. We don't have to hide our body shapes anymore because we're a little bit embarrassed, because that was a sort of middle-age overindulgence, having a bit of cash to eat too much food and the wrong kind of food. Well, yeah, a little bit embarrassing for us, but we've sorted that out. We dealt with that. So how long will Older the band keep going? Well, 5th album being worked on. We're not throwing out albums every 6 months. They're not just thrown out for the sake of it. There's hours upon hours of work going into writing and recording an album and mixing and producing. I don't really know how many hours, but it takes at least 2 years to put an album together, and we'll just keep going as long as we can, which technically means as long as Julie's voice keeps working, which it still does, and as long as my fingers can still play the bass and guitar, and still, as long as my eyes can see enough of the computer to be able to quite little tiny buttons on the computer, aren't they? They have to get a bigger screen. But we'll go as long as we can, as long as my ears work. And at the moment, I've got older ears, but they're still working. And it's amazing how skills you can develop to overcome aging ears. I mean, because some of the world's top mixers, mastering engineers, producers are my age, and their ears are buggered too. But they're doing a great job, awesome job. It's funny that, the longer, it's one of those things, the more experience you have, the more skilled and brilliant you become at the job, the more your body fights against you. And in the case of those people I've just mentioned, ears, without ears, you can't do anything, but we can't protect them as well as we think we can. It just doesn't work like that. And if we do protect them, then they can just naturally decline, like our eyesight. Anyway, we're older. We are older. We're just older. Are we old? Yeah. According to you young fellas and young folks, we're definitely old. But that's not really, in the end, we just have a hang up about it, because we talk about racism and misogyny and all sorts of horrible, evil things in society. But the one that never gets addressed is ageism. Ageism is really pervasive right through society. And I think we had a hang up about it when we started 10 years ago. Ageism, definitely we felt it. Now we're more accepting of it. We're just on the end of ageism all the time. Maybe sometimes we can even be guilty of doing it ourselves. Maybe we can be guilty of being ageist against people our age who have energy, attitude and approach to life that we feel is like 15, 20 years older than us. And yet, being our age, they seem to represent our generation. They go about their business representing people in their late 50s, and we look at them and think, for heaven's sake, come on, we're almost fighting against our own generation, which I believe is Generation X, I think. Yeah, not boomers. Haha, defensive there, but not boomers. The one after that. Yeah, I think the biggest fight is against our own generation, trying not to have their mental outlook on the world and their negativity, and just keeping alive that creativity and that sense of adventure